Opium Baby is just an awesome song, and one that really you wouldn't think, like, once you start walking around and making like the freaking like you start doing the like exact the elongated like moans at the end of the song, like
Yep. That's it.
Yeah, no, we gotta clip
Sorry.
that one. That's gotta.
That's the intro, actually. There you go. There's the intro. It's just gonna be that on like a loop.
Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock tick 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 faster.
I mean, all right, you know what? This is the Living Off Borrowed Time podcast. Welcome back after a year hiatus. I'm Patrique on RYM. He's Caleb, OptimalAudio on our still OptimalAudio on RYM. Or are you Caleb?
Still, yeah, still. I
do
not pay Big Man Sharifi, so I can't.
Yeah, I don't either anymore since they took away my my publishing rights, so they do not get.
Yeah,
my
you have
money.
a reason not to.
Essential.
We have a guest as well. Ben Embraced on RYM. Ben, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me.
And we're here discussing, generally on this show, when an album comes out that generally there's some stupid fucking discourse on that you're wrong about, we have to come and correct you real quick, hit you with a rolled up newspaper. And we had to do it when Whole Lotta Red came out, and we're going to do it again for Playboi Carti Is the Music, and we are here to talk about the music. So there's your intro. All right.
No, and look, you actually halted me from running back my intro for many years ago, the Whole Lotta Red reaction episode where.
Oh, god damn it, we could have done a callback to that. Yeah.
We could. I mean, look, man, I didn't have to go on you saved me from going on like a 5-minute rant about my annoyances with, how like rap music discourse is these days. Anyway.
Well, unfortunately,
this is always what you talk about.
I mean, it is true. It has gotten worse. The discourse has somehow gotten worse. The problem is I don't feel you're saying strongly about this to give the fuck you if you don't like this album. Although if I read the discourse, I'd probably be like, yeah, fuck you for how you're discussing this album. But the more I listen to it, yeah, kind of fuck you if you don't like. I mean, the problem is the Travis song.
Oh, we're already getting into it.
Oh, there's so much. Okay, hold on. Yes,
Patrick
you're
cannot
right.
wait to drop Travis hate. He's itching for it.
Straight up.
I am too, man. I can't lie, but
you're straight up. You're ready to drop. Okay, before we have to. I'm throwing on the hard break because this whole last few minutes to start the podcast makes perfect sense because listeners, I mean, it's no secret we've been going for a minute. We are raring, chomping at the bit to talk on the pod. We missed a lot from last year. I know stuff happened, life happened, but surprise, we're back, and of course we're talking about Carti. I mean, who else would we be talking about on the pod besides Carti in a surprise drop? So, like Pat said, we kind of always convene to talk about a Carti record and especially an album that is hip hop right now. I mean, Playboi Carti is the music, but also this album is the event record of the year so far in rap, mainstream or otherwise. And I mean, obviously, spoiler, there's a lot of contention from many different people about the album and certain parts of it. It's not exactly a one cohesive vision, but I do think that it is the most interesting mainstream rap record I've heard in quite a while, which is not surprising considering the artist at the center of it. And before we even get to that, Ben, did you think this album was coming out before, like, a few days before it came out?
I probably was one of the few that I felt like I had big hope. Like Carti, he's the kind of guy who knows what he's doing when he's pushing back all these dates. He knows that he's trying to build up the hype. So I do genuinely believe that like he had the vision to push it all back. He wanted to pull the Sorry for the Wait, Lil Wayne, you know, album title, because this is how he's building up the hype. He's been waiting basically since he dropped Different Day back in December 2023, right? We've been waiting. That was the first single, and we've been waiting all this time. And you can think, wow, what an asshole for, like, you know, dropping a single and then just leaving us, and no sign of an album, no sign of a release date, no sign of a cover track list. But throughout that whole year and a half, we were all talking about the so-called album that didn't exist. And that's hype, even if you have no concept of what you're even talking about. So I did have hope that he was going to drop it, because I knew kind of his play that I think he was trying to pull with this whole Sorry for the Wait album. Basically, he said, I'm gonna hold off. I'm gonna let you come up with concepts of how you think the album is gonna drop, what the album's gonna sound like, and then I'm just gonna drop something that you weren't even expecting. So I did have hope, and I actually believed that he was gonna drop it.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because I didn't really. I had taken the YouTube singles at face value, and I was like, oh, he's definitely dropping something. And then when it went, a year, I was like, all right, like, whatever, man. Like, this is this is not dropping. I have these like 5 amazing songs. Shout out to Nicole in the server. Set up a little mega link, slid that my way. I had just the album, to me, it was the I Am Music EP, and I just had that. And if that was like a real thing, it probably would have been my favorite shit of last year. But it was just like, I listened to it a lot, and I was perfectly content with that. I was like, at this point, we're going on like 5 years now. Who knows? And I was a little disappointed, but I wasn't like super, down in the dumps about this sort of thing. Like, it happens. We all know who we're dealing with here. And before I get to general first impressions about the album from Patrick, and I definitely want to hear, Ben, your first impressions. I have an idea, but especially because you're kind of, of the 3 of us, you're kind of, this is a funny way of putting it, but you're kind of like the old head Carti fan, because your favorite stuff, if my memory serves, is still like the earliest shit.
I don't know if it's my favorite. I'd probably say Whole Lotta Red is still my favorite, but so that like the In Abundance type stuff. Right. Probably ahead of like Die-Lit and stuff like that. So I have a lot more appreciation.
I was under the impression you still wrote his name as Cash Carti in the chat.
with a dollar sign.
Yeah, ultimate loser mode, just like only going old head Carti.
Yeah, there's way more Carti old heads out there than you think, which is an interesting conversation topic as it relates to where he's going to go in his career. But I will say, so the album, we find out like a couple days before, like, the shit's going to come out. I was like, okay, interesting, hype, like, very cool. Didn't really like have any, besides the expectation of, hey, I think it's going to be good. Like, I didn't really have any clear expectation, but obviously for listeners, those that know, or maybe you're a first time listener, this is, one of my favorite artists, arguably my favorite, very highly up there, very important to me over the last, 8 years or so. So super excited. Album comes out, and immediately I'm making offhanded jokes, on my first couple listens that first day about, it's his Life of Pablo, because he went in and he made, there was a couple mixing changes even after the album came out. It's this, it's that.
It's his Donda.
Well, I didn't say that. I was initially.
I've heard that one a lot, though.
Right. I thought that was interesting, that could have been a comparison point. But then I actually arrived pretty quickly at, I was wrong initially, and I kind of nixed all that. And even though the rollout was what it was, and there was a lot of chaos at the end, and Ben, you touched on this, there was a moment in listening to this, probably, I don't know, fourth or fifth listen, a couple days in at this point, and I was like, you know what? This is his Wayne album. He just made a Wayne album. And then I know the I Am music being I mean, Wayne had that tattooed, I believe, like in that Carter 3 era, I think. And then, but what really, even before the deluxe came out, and it was Sorry for the Wait, which I did laugh at as well. That was a funny touch. But when on the song Radar, which we'll get to different tracks and whatever, but this is just related to my central sort of thesis. He says there's an ad lib where he's like, "It's Carti world," and that ad lib, I don't know if either of you know what I'm talking about, but there's an ad lib in the middle of the song, and he says, "It's Carti world," and that sounds like you just photocopied like Wayne from like, I don't know, not quite 10 years ago, but or more than 10 years ago, excuse me, like 15 years ago. And I was just like, wait a minute, this is just like he just made his version of a Wayne album. And so since that point, I've been viewing the album through that lens. Obviously, like Wheezy, there are other songs where you can kind of put a one-to-one connotation, but I wonder if, like, I don't know, is this, what Wayne album is it? I'm not sure, but that was sort of my overall idea coming in this episode was, one, that I'm a big fan of this record, and I'll get into why later on, but two, that this is really his Wayne album, and I don't know if anyone has attempted to really make a Wayne album in recent years. So, I mean, Patrick, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. Maybe I'm just going off the reservation here. I don't know.
No, I like that because oddly, the first one I'm going to bring, the first Wayne album I want to come to mind with, I don't think anyone's going to agree with. I don't know if anyone else has heard this. Funeral.
Nope.
No, I mean, I've heard it, but I
don't remember anything about it.
It's more just in the darker, jagged edges of it in the production side, and in some mainly in Pop Out and in some of the ragier songs. That's mainly, and some of the, because Funeral was a Triple Extentation tribute, I always maintain, and I feel like he's kind of going at a little bit of that in the more aggressive songs. But I hear what Caleb's saying about it being a Wayne tribute, and a lot of the way he switches flows, the way he's rapping,
even on the same
way
song,
he raps, and also and having Izzo around, I think, is a lot of like the way Wayne has drama around on the dedications.
Yeah, it's a dedication style album in my opinion. That's probably the closest. It's a mixtape. Similar to all the D6s and D3s.
I think maybe not as lyrically dexterous as Wayne, but he's borrowing a lot of Wayne's structure and format.
Agreed. Yeah. And like, obviously we know it's like a heavy influence that this is like supposed to be mixtape. Like this is supposed to be sort of like a mixtape vibe. You're getting random ad libs from guest stars. You're getting songs that don't have any Carti verses at all. It's just like one.
You're getting repeat features. You're getting features that do like the same that show up and do completely different things. You're getting a certain feature that shows up a bunch of times, whether or not you want to fucking hear him.
Exactly.
Right. Well, then
Travis is the weed
also
carrier in this album.
There's also exactly. Travis is like a whole fucking, like, instead of getting like his instead of getting the Opium roster showing up, maybe doing stuff you might like, or your weed carrier, like instead of getting Gutta taking you under or whatever, you're getting fucking straight up Travis showing up like 5 or 6 times, just fucking killing the vibe. Like, I mean, you also get Uzi, Future, you get cool stuff like that. Like, I mean, debatable. Again, the Uzi stuff, I guess, is up to taste, but I mean, there's a reason for it to be there. I think both features are very different. I really, we'll get to the Travis shit, man, but I feel like that's also serving a purpose in the mixtape structure sense.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason for Travis. As much as I don't like it, there's a reason for it.
Yeah.
It's drawing on a lot of, I think the biggest overarching take that I think all three of us would have is it's drawing on a lot of different ideas and sort of eras and collaborators, in the sense that any big artist that would do a mixtape or drop a project after years would potentially do. Now, Carti hasn't necessarily done that before, but this one you can kind of feel like there's an all-encompassing nature to it. You have, I think, for really the first time, you have legitimate. Now he's made pop songs before, but you have like pop. Concession sounds bad, even if but that's kind of what I think.
Crossover.
Yeah, crossover.
You got radio.
You're trying out stuff that I actually think is successful, but you're trying out stuff like Fine Shit, obviously Rather Live. Like you're trying a Backdoor, that whole section. You have the section with like, oh, these features have, this is more like grittier, and also these features have been on Carti stuff before. Toxic, even a song like Wake Up Filthy, despite the, we know who's featured on that one, but and then you're like, oh, okay, here we got the Future song, and then so it becomes this like interesting, all-encompassing endurance test, but at the same time, it is one that I found to be incredibly rewarding on repeated listens, because that first listen, I did like it, I definitely liked it, but I was like so overwhelmed with the scope and the length, and like I just mentioned, like the endurance tests of it, because it's 30 songs is nothing to sneeze at, and now I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh, the 34 song version is obviously the definitive version. So it's ironic that I'm saying that now, when at first I was like, man, did we need 30? I love Carti, I'll never complain about 30, but did we need 30? Is it a little oversaturated? And now I'm like, no, 34 for sure. We could still pick off a couple, but we have to have the the bonuses.
Mm-hmm. I think all the bonuses they're top half in terms of the best songs on the album. So I think it's their necessity. They hold a big necessity for the album, for sure.
I mean, the Different Day is one of the best songs he's ever released, in my opinion.
I think it's a top 5 Carti song,
which is saying a lot coming from me. Like I obviously
crazy.
We are in the bag for a lot of Carti music like that. For me to say that about Different Day is like, that song blew me away the minute it came out with that music video all that time ago at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still it still floors me today, honestly.
I think that's his best voice he did. Like, I think his voice on that, when he first dropped it, that was it was sort of like a new voice he had, different than the sort of Whole Lotta Red style he was doing. The Sias were life-changing at first, I gotta be honest. It was
very crisp.
Probably my favorite ad-lib he's ever done. Better than the Fwez, the Bees, the Sia all over that Different Day song is just it's beautiful. It's exactly what I wanted him to pull, and every lyric is quotable off of it.
There are some songs from this album that in my opinion they're in the Hall of Fame, which will further go into, I think, all of us refuting some of the negativity around it, but that's a conversation for down the road in this episode. Pat, you were going to say something. I didn't mean to.
Oh, I was just going to say that I think that the 2 out of the 4 bonuses are just all-timers. I think this A Different Day in 2024 all-timers period, and I think the other 2 have are just top shelf on the album, and I think FO Me DJ is like a perfect bookend with Pop Out in terms of just beginning and ending on the same tonal note.
Mm-hmm. Good call.
Backdoors out of the whole crop of songs is probably the least I always get Backrooms and Backdoors.
Backrooms, yeah.
Backrooms, yes.
Yeah. So Backdoors is the Kendrick and Gene one, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, the Janae Echo one.
Yeah. Right, Gene, yeah. So Backrooms, yeah. I mean, I feel like that's probably the least of all of that, the YouTube singles era one, or the whatever Instagram singles ones, I forget. But that's still a great song, still a good song. And honestly, of the ones that had Travis ones, that's still again, they're the ones that he is less felt on, where he's just like an unnecessary appendage, and then they're the ones he kind of ruins.
Yeah,
and that's one of the ones I would say he's unnecessary appendage to okay on.
I disagree. I think this is one of his worst beats, to be honest.
Maybe it's
I skip it every time.
Maybe I've just kind of developed a tolerance or a callous to him on that one.
Wait, Backrooms is Backrooms is Travis's best on the album, in my opinion.
I don't know. It's just he's got this like lethargic
His flow on
that.
All of his flows are lethargic, though. All of his
I know, but
like he's fucking doing like Cuddy on Xanax. It's fucking terrible. Like, what's the fucking problem?
I think especially this one, it takes away from what Carti did on his first verse. I think that
I completely disagree. This I will never go to the wall for Travis, but this is very interesting because
and I'll defend him on other songs here, but I won't defend him on this one, unfortunately.
I like his I think for one, I think he says the least amount of like cringy shit on it, which is very important.
What about Crush? He barely says anything, right?
Well, okay, that doesn't count. That doesn't count.
Why does that count? It says featured. Featured.
He does like nothing on it. Like nothing.
But like that's a good way to employ him, right? Like
don't
you
even
hear the straight up, and it's kind of hard.
No.
And
okay, wait.
You hear him like auto croon his way over some like.
I like him.
I agree with.
I like him on the hook on Philly, and I like him for like the first third of Philly, and then he doesn't stop. Like then he. Just
I will defend.
Shut up.
Yeah. Okay, I will defend Philly. I know.
Yeah, no, Philly's great. Philly's a great song,
one.
Except for like the fucking half of it is Travis. Like there should have been Carti. Like
I think
Philly would have been
Go to the Moon sucks. Like because Go to the Moon, it's like where Go to the Moon is mostly a Kanye song. That's mostly a Travis song.
That's true.
It's mostly Travis song.
The hook on Philly is good. I'm not against that. Preface. I don't think a single song on this album is bad. I'm also like in the tank for Carti music, so every song is going to grow on me at some point, like whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Philly on first listen was definitely my least favorite because I thought it was the things that I don't like about some of the Travis stuff on here is when it is plotting. When Travis is on some other songs, like when it's mid-tempo more, not like super drawn out, but like more mid-tempo, that's more his lane. Backrooms, I think, is more of his lane. Wake Up Filthy is more of his lane. Like Wake Up Filthy could have been a like a Astroworld type of song. You know what I'm saying? That's more of what I hear. Maybe a little post that. That's more of like what I like to hear Travis on the album when he's basically just like a sound. I know he's rapping on Wake Up Filthy, but a lot of that verse is really just like the melodic. What he's doing melodically carries that verse where I think it's a lot better than some of the other contributions. Like Charge Them Hoes, on Charge Them Hoes when he
is probably his worst though.
Charge Them Hoes, I think we all agree.
Charge Them Hoes is probably the most wasted potential on, if we're gonna get into negatives.
We're starting off with negatives right away.
If we're starting off with negatives, then in terms of tracklist stuff and whatever, I think Charge Them Hoes is misplaced. I also think it's the most wasted potential of the entire album.
It's really like a slog in the middle of it. It kind of kills all the momentum that like Crank built up. I really never want to hear like...
It's a good beat. It's a good beat. I don't think I really like Carti that much on it.
It's not even that good of a beat in my opinion. I don't really want to hear a easy beat on a Carti album.
The only thing I really dislike about it when I think about it is Travis, because I feel like he just drags it down like a stone, but the whole thing just feels lethargic. But I like the idea of the song, though. It feels like a 3-6 DJ Paul sort of homage almost, because so much of the album, like you said, Caleb, feels like he's bringing in influences. He's even other people on the album feel like they're either doing homages to Carti or homages to the first Kendrick song feels like, and I don't know if I'm the only one who hears this, him doing Max B.
Oh, interesting. You know what? I never thought about it that way, but Kendrick is definitely, he's very
Kendrick's having so much fun on this album. I love both the fucking Kendrick appearances. I
hated him at first, and now they've really grown on me for sure.
The Mojo Jojo probably grew on me as much as almost any other song on the album. Not because of the Kendrick stuff. I just thought it was like an interesting, like diametrically opposed deal. And then once, what was it that really sold me? Oh, I like when Kendrick does the like hi like that.
So
funny. That is so
I laugh
funny.
At that every time.
So that was really what sold me. And I also like the like hey like I like that too. So
the intro is also really good. I don't know. I love the beep Carti.
Yeah. No,
that actually reminds me of all things on the fucking Vince Staples on the fucking on Doris. We want them rapped, or is either Domo or Vince on the Earl album. We want them raps, them 16s that we don't know care about.
Yeah.
We want them bars.
That's a good one. That is kind of similar.
That's like the first thing I thought about.
Yeah, because he's I need that Back to the Future car.
Yeah, he's just like, because I feel like so much of this album is Carti just like, he's being funny. He's being like, he's so much more clever on this album than he's going to get credit for ever. He's so much better of a rapper too. So that's where, again, I get your argument of him being Wayne. Like, I think he's just kind of but he's not being like overtly best rapper alive Wayne. Like he's doing flows and stuff, but I think that he's just being true to himself. It's very idiosyncratic. Yeah. I don't know.
And what you literally how you finish that, like, idiosyncratic is how you can picture and describe Carti especially within the scope of mainstream rap. I mean, I think that a lot of his albums in the past have not only been massively influential in the short term and long term, but they've also been like in conversation with stuff that was bubbling in the underground. Whole Lotta Red being a chief example of that, I think. Even the self-titled, I think, also a big example of what was going on in the underground at that time. This one, and another first impression I had, since we're still just kind of doing raw thoughts right now, another first impression I had was, okay, so this is probably going to be the least, like, you know, using very flowery music journalism type words, like genre pushing and boundary pushing and you know, moving rap forward. None of those like laudy plaudits, but I do think that I wonder if it is going to be influential in the mainstream, because make no mistake, this is a massive album. I think the long wait elevated Playboi Carti's presence in the mainstream undoubtedly. I also think that like just the post Whole Lotta Red stuff of him being super popular on like, you know, TikTok and social media and stuff like that, like him being such a massive artist. Big artists like Kendrick has talked up Carti in the past. This is not a secret. Like he's posted Carti stuff before, if I believe, like years ago. But getting him to be on the album when Kendrick is the biggest rapper in the world, like that's all that stuff. I think is interesting to view how like what impact this will have. Like will other albums sound like this? And I keep going back to like not really. Like this sounds like him doing a massive like big budget movie, but with a mixtape, grimy sort of feel, sprinkled throughout it.
That's a good way to describe it. Like
that's the best.
Big album budget, but you know, when you have like censored version of Bunyan on the album, it's hard to say it was truly like pieced together and tried, like everything was meticulously crafted perfectly. It's got that mixtape vibe, which is I think it's probably a first for in terms of like that big mixtape vibe to go sort of mainstream in hip hop, right? Like,
I mean, but even the the Wayne and Future stuff, those were more. I think those were better. I don't want to say better is a strong word, but those were more. They felt more meticulously assembled.
Yeah,
you know, the best versions of that stuff felt more meticulously assembled. And I mean, you know, like I know it's a sore subject on the podcast. We try not to bring up this guy, but you know, when Drake dropped "If You're Reading This," that was really an album, even though people called it a mixtape.
True. Okay.
That was very well assembled. I don't think it is. This is a little more off the cuff and more of a. This is all of these songs are, you know, probably what you would probably say about 2+ years of music coming together at some point,
and even longer actually.
Probably.
It's been 1.5 since Different Day dropped. So
yeah, so you would think it's
there was
closer to 3 maybe. Yeah. I mean,
I'd be curious as to what the time frame is between the oldest and. So do you think Different Day is the oldest song on here?
I think it's probably one of the. Well, I don't know. And there's somewhere I've read about like the actual places and time frames where all these songs were recorded. Like some of them were recorded in like the cave sessions where he was just like locked in like a dark cave, dressed in all black, looking super goth but then you have just like songs that were probably recorded, a week before the album dropped. I would assume a lot of these features, like the Thug and Ty song, that probably had to be like 2021 or something. I can't imagine.
That sounds like that song was okay. We're gonna get last negative thing, because it's not a bad song, but it is so woefully out of place. That's actually, to me, the weakest song on the album.
I agree. It's unnecessary.
It shouldn't be there. It should be like a single. Drop it in the summer, and also that song is 5 years too late.
Yeah, it's totally out. There are 3 totally out of place songs on the album: the Weekend song, Charge Them Hoes a Fee, and that song. That song, I think,
we're on the same wavelength.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best of the 3 songs, but it's also probably the one that's tonally the most out of place. It feels the most outdated. It feels kind of like an antique.
Right. If you went back in time and put that out in 2019 and put it on put it out, and it could have been a hit. I mean, that's it's not bad. Like, but in the combination of artists just feels like it could have came out on like maybe like a Punk or like a So Much Fun Deluxe or something like that. That's when I. Well,
it's also interesting because doesn't Carti have some line about I can't go to jail, my crew a gang or something? He has some line about that earlier, and I'm like, huh, interesting.
I mean, he definitely he's Thug influence for sure, and he wanted to put. I know he wanted to put Thug on the album, and I'm sure this was a last minute addition that he was just like, just grab a verse, grab a random unreleased song, and put it on there. I wish.
And they picked the one that sounds. They picked the one that sounds most like a Young Thug song. Like, it wasn't that it was, out of place in terms of the artist on the track, but it was so tonal. I mean, you put that song, again, we're getting the track list, I know we're bouncing around here, but that song is after Cocaine Nose and before Olympian.
Yeah.
You talk about mixtape, like, what?
I mean, I get it's like a mixtape. You want to add
Who made that decision?
But like it just doesn't fit, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, in terms of sequencing, I feel like the album, my biggest problem with it, I digested it over 2 listens, because the first time I tried to listen to it was after I just started a new 12-hour shift, and was not really the time to start listening to this album after I'd done my very first 12-hour shift. It was just not the time. Yeah. And
exhausting stuff. Yeah.
Yes. Even though I could appreciate from jump that this was a well-crafted album with good songs on it. It still took 2 days. But my thing is that, yes, it's a mixtape, but you can tell that the beginning and end runs are more well-crafted than the middle.
100%. 100%.
I don't know how they decided on the track list of this thing and the sequencing, but like, I know it's been a big talk about like the Crush, the Pop Out intros and outros, the Crush intros and outros, Evil Jordan intro. Everything seemed to like flow, but not. Like, it all had the right intro and outro, but everything.
It's almost like there's a little bit of like a trolling element to that. And I'm sorry to steamroll you there, Ben.
No, you're right.
You hit him in the brain of like, and Carti has been known to do this. Like, I mean, like you even alluded to this like in the beginning a little. Like, he's kind of pulling the rug out from under you a little bit, and like the whole track, the sequencing on the album is kind of like a wink. It's like, okay, you want all these songs? Well, here you go. Like, I'm going to put them all together in this way, and it's so different from the official studio albums of his past, whether it was the self-titled or Die Lit or Whole Lotta Red. I mean, those are, people talk about Whole Lotta Red sequencing. No. Whole Lotta Red is, once you really listen to it like more than a few times, it's pretty immaculately sequenced. And
I have no notes on Whole Lotta Red. Like, honestly, for as long as that is. And actually, I'll go back to the Bob Pollard thing. I have no notes on, like, B1000 or something like that. Whole Lotta Red's a lot of short songs perfectly put together to a purpose. And Die Lit's like 19 songs. That's a pretty large amount of songs if you think about it. And they're all put together for a reason, too. This felt haphazard. But then the more I've lived with it, and it's been like 4 or 5 full listens at this point, and once or twice on shuffle just to see how they sound shuffled together. And in isolation, it does seem like, the good shit is on the front and back. This is like a glass of orange juice where the fucking pulp is like I don't know where I was going with that. That made sense. That analogy absolutely does not make sense when I fucking.
You were cooking though. You were cooking. I
was
actually
cooking and I burnt the shit. But yeah,
well,
like when you
the
get
orange
there,
juice might have got a little spoiled, but.
But yeah, honestly, yeah, you get through. I would say Toxic. You get through like the big features there with Kendrick and Skepta, and then it just kind of goes flat for a while, like a improperly shook bottle of orange juice, and then you get to Olympian is when it picks back up.
Olympian through the end of the album is about as good as it gets. I really don't have a lot of notes from whether it's sequencing or like everything to me makes sense.
But even in that middle, though, you still have Good Credit, Cocaine Nose, and Jump and Trim with Future. Like I would say,
oh no, 100%.
No, still got real bad. You've got real heat in the middle, but I would say that it's still sequenced in a weird, lumpy way that you don't get in other Carti albums that flow as like a whole one cohesive listen. So you can say that's mixtape sequencing or whatever. And it's still, again, like when I listen to this, like I can still listen to it all the way through. I don't have problems with it necessarily, but it doesn't feel as cohesive. I don't know. So I can see why this would be disappointing in that, or where it would be a challenging listen. Right. But then I scroll up in the RYM page and I see a 2.82 and I'm like, you're fucking kidding me. This is under a 3. You're fucking kidding me.
Oh, yes, we're back. We're back.
Yeah, we are very back to just complaining about shit that people care about. The important things. The number.
And look, by the way, look, you're right. I completely agree with you. I couldn't have said it any better. And I will say that on my last comment about the sequencing and just, even if there are little problems I have with it, one, I mean, look, we live in a, there's great technology in the world now. You can click around on different songs. I don't know if RYM knows that, but you can do that. You're allowed to click around on songs. And the other thing I'll say is once you listen to a project like this enough times, like I have, because personally, it's been an object of obsession for sure since it dropped, as anything with Playboi Carti. You just like, if the songs are really good, I'm so used to where they are now in the track list that like I didn't even do make your own, like no, I just kind of. So now when I listen to, I'm making this up, but if I listen to like Toxic and the song ends and I'm nodding along to the hypnotic, Memphis cowbell type beat, and then I know that I'm gonna hear Swamp come in and be like, you must be living under a rock if you haven't heard my voice. I know that's coming in on Munyon next. Once you're familiar enough with an album, you're familiar with the album. It's kind of like you know what to expect. You can get over your initial sequencing complaints or concerns, if you will. I don't know if you guys.
I definitely agree, and it's kind of like what I felt like happened with "Go to the Moon" on Whole Lotta Red. It's like that song feels like it shouldn't really be there. It's like you got Rockstar Made kicking it off really heavy, and then it sort of dies down with like just the random Kanye verse, and then it kicks right back in with Stop Breathing. You feel like that sort of like lull shouldn't happen, but you just know that Carti verse is going to start dying down, and then suddenly you're going to get hit with the big booming bass of Stop Breathing, and it fits even though it shouldn't, because as you've just heard it so many times, you're just anticipating it, and I feel like I agree with that.
And maybe you need that. Maybe you need that, because like it would if you went on this album, if you went pop out, K-pop, or I'm always going to call it ketamine, but they probably changed it for the purpose of they were probably asked to change it. Pop out, ketamine, Evil Jordan. That's like, that's a lot. Now, could they have maybe, it's, to me, the pop out outro sounds like it should feed it to Evil Jordan. Sure, they probably should have changed that. But like, am I so used to it now that it doesn't matter? Yeah, pretty much. So, and look,
I start off with pop out, like, what a crazy way to like start your most anticipated mainstream release. Like they could have done
with a song that will alienate so many people on first listen, no question. And that song's like what? That song's like 3 years old.
Yeah, I think so.
Is that the oldest song on here, or one of them? You would think
that something around there. But that was the sort of style we were, I think, expecting with Narcissist when it was supposed to drop, right? That just
I forgot that was so. Narcissist was the initial expected follow up to Whole Lotta Red, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a shame too because
up Rage, presumably, right? Like
that was where he was. I thought he was going to do like heavy guitars. That was sort of that cocaine like nose pop out style was sort of I think what we were expecting with Narcissist, I believe.
Because that's one of the things I was kind of coming into the episode wanting to talk about was that I feel like every Carti album, but especially, and I guess this kind of goes into this is his Life of Pablo sort of discussion, is that, but every Carti album and growing with each album feels like it's an aggregation of sessions. And maybe this leads to this is the mixtape album format, like just throwing several things together. And
yeah,
I don't know. Much,
I think there were at least 6 sessions.
Is it necessarily like a mixtape? I guess what I'm trying to come to a conclusion with here is he making a mixtape album, or is he starting to lose his focus as a curator? How much of this is deliberate? How much of this is calculated? Or how much of this is him just throwing something out there because he's sick of being told he has to put out an album?
I think you can only...
It might be D, all of the above.
I think we can only know, though, until the next album drops.
It matters because the more I listen to it, it flows cohesively. At the very least, although this is his least cohesive project. I think we all agree on that, though.
Oh, yeah. It's not even close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know if cohesive, like, it doesn't really necessarily mean it's like, it just makes it better. Like, I would put this above Die Lit, but Die Lit's so cohesive. The problem is, like, I think it comes to a...
Die Lit.
Put this over Die Lit. Oh,
I think Die Lit, it has its faults, though, because it's so consistent. But maybe that's just because I overplayed
You're saying it's like too much of a uniform sound with Die Lit.
Somewhat, yeah. I mean, you're getting a lot of Pierre production, which is... It was everything I wanted back in 2018, 2019. But now the whole slew of producers that are on here, every song sounds like it came from a different sort of style or influence. I think that makes a more interesting listen. But maybe that's just because, I mean, Die Lit was probably like my most played album back in
I can understand that argument mostly just in that you've listened to Die Lit so much that you're just kind of sick of it.
I don't remember the last time I really heard a song off of it. I'd rather go back to Self-Titled or, the earlier stuff.
Hey man, what came up on, I was listening to this album and it ended and I got auto played, and what auto played? It was God, I forget the song. No Time with Gunna. Oh come on, no, I was still locked in though. That's an amazing song.
Whenever Lean for Real comes, and Lean for Real is so good it ruins the song on here just by existing.
Lean for Real is incredible stuff. Although I will say that if we're gonna talk about Toxic at some point, Skepta murdered that. I have come so far around.
He's just fucking charismatic. The only thing that I can hold against that song is that Lean for Real exists.
Yeah. So you have expectations that are way different because the songs are so, the pace of Toxic is so much slower. Way different, song structure. And Carti really is only, he's a hook, basically, on the song.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. And I didn't really care for his verse at first, but then, first listen, I'm like, oh, it was kind of disappointing. But then more and more listens, I kind of like the fact that he's basically just so monochromatic and continuing the same flow from the same flow and voice from the hook. So and again, his whole part on the song is before Skepta comes in, it's 45 seconds. So it's not killing you either way.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I'm the opposite though. I really do not like that Skepta verse. I think it kind of ruins the sort of, like you said, you had that monochrome style. Everything was very similar with the way he was flowing on the hook, and that hook just keeps getting in my head constantly, every day. But
you got too much perfume. That's what he's saying, right? I think that's what it is. Isn't that what he's saying? I got too much
fucking Shit.
Let's see.
Too much profit. Too much profit.
Too much profit. Okay, whatever. Same. You know what? I'll hold that one.
I don't know what it says, but it's just that part just keeps getting in my head. I don't know. I don't vibe too much with the Skeptaverse.
You didn't like that, dog. When
$100, €100. I need 100 pounds.
Yes.
I did like that.
I love the
like poker when I poke them. I just text them. That's not. I'm sorry. I can't. I can't co-sign that one.
Bro, no.
It is. It certainly is, and I'm not a fan.
It's the whole flow, and he's like, she told me she loves me. I told her I'm speechless. That was nice. That was nice. I like that whole little. Look, we got the club going up like McConan. Come on now, like that. I like the. I also like when he says your boyfriend's a follower. So you know, I like the I like the schedule.
I think it's like got that ASAP Rocky / Ludacris, like prime Ludacris, like clever, stupid quality to it that he knows he's doing. He's like just charismatic. It's swag. It's a swag verse, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, he said he's big in the East, he's big in the West, he's big in the South. Who am I to disagree? Like, I believe him.
Well, I'm from the North, so I don't really.
He ignored you. Well, the reason why you don't like the Skeptaverse, Ben, is you don't have big racks jumping out the house. You don't have.
I can admit that, unfortunately.
It's okay. Neither do I. But anyway, I don't know. We've been doing sequencing, a lot of macro discussion. I feel should we get into much like the album? This is our most haphazard podcast in a while. Usually there's more of a delineation of flow. We're really just shooting the shit for you guys. So hopefully this has been a good listen. But I mean, we kind of talked.
You can't really follow along with the album if you were listening to this in one ear and music in the other.
I don't know. I don't really care. I've never really thought about like that. Anthony Fantano asked, like, you need to be able to listen to the album along with the podcast. I don't like.
No.
Do you really?
Oh gosh, that? I will never.
No.
I mean, it's more about like just your experience of listening to the album. Like, I don't think you need to go track one. Like, I mean, if you want that, Legends Will Never Die at RYM does a great job of going track by track.
Yeah.
I know Caleb and I have done that.
We could just read Legends review I could just read Legends review for you guys on the air if you'd like, if you want to go track by track and tell you.
I mean,
Carti's third LP brings old and new sounds together. Atlanta, Georgia rapper, singer, songwriter, model, and Opium Records founder Playboi Carti at long last releasing his third studio LP.
Yes,
he does call him. He goes back before Sir Cash Carti, Sir Cartier Marty. I'm not going to do this, but
no, we don't need a full Legends. If anybody wants to be extremely bored, they can go read a Legends Will Never Die review. That's all that needs to be.
But he does do every single track in order if that's what you're looking for. So yeah, I'm not really that concerned with doing every track in order. Is my point. So.
No. I was more of we're doing a lot of high level stuff. I figure we dive into certain.
Yes, we were doing We were doing two high level discussions. Let's dumb it down for the listener.
Listen. I'm not slandering any listener. Okay, any listener is a good listener. It's funny. I want to say we didn't talk about as Ben, you were talking about the initial stuff. So Evil Jordan. So intro, yay or nay on Evil Jordan from where it was initially?
I think I was yes to start, but at 1 minute long now, I don't know if I really want to continue to re-listen to the intro every time. It was nice to hear it that first time, and I don't know why people are talking about like the TikTokification of like Playboi Carti with this intro.
I mean,
that
it is
never
like
really Wait, I mean, I don't understand. I'm an old man.
I don't know either. I Caleb, maybe you understand.
I think it's because like people play it in like edits on TikTok or something. Like the intro is people. I guess it's a joke that it's like music made for TikTok edits, but I haven't seen the edits that people would be referring to.
No, neither have I, and I don't know. Yeah. I don't really know what.
So it loses me.
The gunshot that was added, though.
Yeah, it loses me in that regard. I understand. I just by proxy, I can understand the joke, but it doesn't really land It doesn't really land with me. It's a little drawn out, the intro. I think we can all agree. It's like, all right, like this is like, a third of the song. Like,
it did not need to be that long.
Right.
And I'm surprised
the song is so good that I don't really care, but
My only complaint is I like it, but I feel like it was drawn out almost for the sake of, look, you heard this before, I'm doing something to it for the sake of doing something to it. Now it's different. Maybe that's why it was so long. That was my only feeling why it was so long. Because you just heard ketamine, and ketamine was essentially the same, although it did feel like he did a different vocal take on it. But
I mean, that's true. That's true. I can see that, and I think we talked about sequencing forever. The ketamine in front of Evil Jordan, I actually don't mind that at all. Like, I think that's a fairly
I think that works,
because I mean those songs came out within like a month of each other, like in real in real time. And yeah, my biggest issue, which I think I flipped not negative, but kind of undecided to positive, is the section of the album that has like from Mojo Jojo to Backdoor. I didn't really know what to make of that the first couple listens, and I'm positive on it now. I mean, obviously Mojo Jojo I think is great. Philly, we talked about I do skip it because of the Travis inclusion, unfortunately. I really like Radar. I think Radar is very sharp. And I also think it's like a better version of what Metro was doing on that like Heroes and Villains album.
Radar is interesting to me. I like that a lot. People were not, if I recall correctly in the Discord, not super high on that Metro beat at first. But I like it. I think it's a good beat. I think
it's not like
I think it reminds me of like it's earlier, like it's like an earlier Metro beat. Like it almost reminds me of like
Metro beat. It's got a lot of
like
punch
Chief Keef's where he get it, that like super like that like synth that wobbles in the background that's super spooky and eerie. And it also gives like an earlier like trap sound to me, like not full trap, but like that early mixtape like stuff with like the
Shorty Red sort of
with like all the horns and the minimal drum pattern. I think that early mixtape sound is
I mean, I get the hook in my head. Like she said, my music is a gift. Like I get that in my head.
I love, that's some of my favorite flow, sort of like internal rhyme flow that he does on the there with the gift. I call it lip. Yeah, like
It's very slick. Even the verses when he's doing the like, I can't do the exact flow pattern, but he adjusts it where it's like a little faster, and then he slows it down and then like speeds it up a little again in like the second verse. It's Patrick has called this out for a long time on the podcast, going back many years. But Carti is just way more skilled than technically, even on a most backward thinking technical level you can apply to it. He's always been more skilled than people would give him credit for, because that's not what he's like quote unquote like known for. That's not the Carti mystique is not that. But it is a song like that, which is a fairly innocuous song, and I just said at the top of the show that song was when it clicked that this was like his Wayne album to me. Little stuff like that is very rewarding over the course of this. So,
well, I was talking about how I sort of see this as like 2 or 3 albums smooshed together from a bunch of sessions is one of the things I want to come in talking about. And like the one thing that I was most excited to hear in this album was the stuff from those YouTube, like the little YouTube EP Caleb was talking about. And one of the things that was most exciting about those songs was that felt like he was really just kind of being like, I'm gonna really fucking rap on these. Like all of those were just him actually being like K-pop or not K-pop. I think it might have been there's one of those where he just like literally just takes like does like a literal actual Wayne thing where he just like does a riff the entire time. It's like a misogynist ass riff about like Shorty can be this, Shorty can be on my team. Like, but it's really, that's Evil Jordan. Yeah. Evil Jordan, yeah. He like literally just like takes that and like just twists it for like a whole straight minute of just taking the sports and like really like kind of cruel misogynist riff, but still does it really well. And maybe it's closer to Gucci than Wayne, actually. I don't know. But like you can hear Gucci on here too, by the way, too. Another person who doesn't get nearly enough credit for their technical ability. And yeah, I think that this is just a testament to how skilled he is, and he will never get credit for that.
Yeah,
on large parts of this album.
100%. I mean, I think about even just in the similar vein, like a little song like Crank. Crank is like a very interesting track, just in the sense of like we talk about 3-6 homage, which is more overt with Charge Them Hoes, but even Crank before that has that energy, obviously with the Space Ghost Perp sample.
Thank God he's finally getting his flowers in the mainstream after all these years. I mean,
and I'm sure he'll be really grateful for it. And definitely.
I mean, I'm surprised he cleared it. I'm surprised.
Look, man,
basically a Fuck Taylor Gang beat repurposed. Like there's almost no, like the percussion's a little different, but the beat is almost purely what SGP did. So
I mean, a check is a check, you know.
It's true. It's hard to say no.
I mean, I'm sure he'll cash the checks. That's for sure. Like he's definitely cashing the checks. But I'm not going to talk any shit on Space Ghost Perp. I don't want him to come at us.
No. We are.
You're going to put a hex on you.
Said in the comment thread, Space Ghost Perp will in fact get our ass. So.
Absolutely, and let the record show is that we are big fans of SGP on this podcast. Lots of good music.
No problems.
Yeah, no problems at all. But yeah, no, really cool. And something like that is the combination of sounds on that song is really creative. Just from like, you know, Swamp in the background and Carti doing these like growl yells almost, like, but they're higher pitched. I always, you know, that's another thing that gets constantly stuck in your head with repetition over and over. So yeah, I mean, love that song, and was one that I think is part of what I said in the beginning of, okay, this album is not necessarily like treading new ground for him. It's not like the other, not necessarily like his other albums in that way. Who knows how influential it'll be? But a song like that, I actually think is treading new ground. And there are, as I immerse myself more and more in the record, I sort of walked back a little bit of what I was saying, regardless of if it's, you know, 100% intentional or not. There is a lot of like straight up new shit on this that he hasn't done with before. He really hasn't played around with a lot before. And I think Crank is a kind of a lower down the totem pole, you know, version of what I'm referring to there. The previous couple songs, like with Fine Shit, Backdoor, that's more of like the on the face, true blue, like pop R&B cuts that he hasn't done a lot of. He's featured on some, but he hasn't really put on his own shit. And I think they're very successful. I mean, Carti on a Cash Cobain beat, I think is like, that's very interesting that happened. But I'm glad it did. And those are, I mean, that's the song they're pushing right now. I think that's gonna be like a pretty, that song's gonna do well for him on the charts, I think. So we'll see. But yeah, both of those. Kendrick sounds really good on Backdoor as well.
Is that really a Cash Carti beat, or not a Cash Cobain beat?
Isn't Fine Shit a Cash Cobain beat, or am I losing my mind? It might not be. I thought he had. Hold on.
I can kind of see why Backdoor might sound like.
I might have been lied to by the.
But you know what's interesting though about this album is we still don't really know like the credits of it. They kind of haven't really released, and this is an interesting album in terms of like production, because there's probably going to be like 6 or 7 guys on some of these songs producing all together, and some pretty big names in the underground too. We still don't even know like who's on it. You can tell sort of, but you can't. There's no definitive credits list out yet.
Yeah, there's a few on RYM that don't have credited producers. Philly doesn't have a credit. With Philly, which is amazing to me. I thought Philly was a very distinctive beat.
Philly's definitely Cardo. You can tell with that
which is by the way, I thought this was very funny because you've got Cardo on there right after right before a Johnny Giuliano is on Evil Jordan, which That's back to
I
back.
think Philly is Johnny Giuliano and Cardo on the same.
And that's like back to back Taylor Gang guys, I believe, from back in the day. So yeah, I did not. Radar. Oh yeah, never mind. Radar has Metro on it.
Yeah. It appears I was wrong about the Cash Cobain shit. It sounded so similar to that.
It did. No, I agree though.
Toxic doesn't have a credit on it.
Toxic is another Cardo one though. I mean those cowbell.
I guess Cardo's not getting his credits on RYM, but so yeah, I did not know Philly was a Cardo. I mean, does he not have his tag? I did not hear is his tag on there or?
No, I don't know if he has any.
No, I don't think he has a single tag on the album.
Those cowbells that's the kind of sound he was pushing, and I don't know. I don't think Genius has it completely updated, but I know he's listed on there. But that just sounds like a beat.
He's all over the album, but he doesn't have a single like drop.
Good Credit does not have production credits.
I feel like that's him as well. I don't know why, but
everything.
I have it up in
RYM. We're just going to give the card out. Jumpin' does not have a production credit.
Jumpin' is Blessed, the producer Blessed, and Good Credit is also Cardo. So. Good call by Ben there on that.
Opium Baby, which I want to talk about a lot in terms that first of all, it's credited to Opium Baby, who has no link. Shout out to Opium Baby.
Yeah.
A bunch of producers who have no credit. It has like 5 production credits who have no RYM link. That's weird.
And then my boy Clayco.
Yeah, well, that's the
Yeah, he has a link. Yeah, I don't know who this guy is, but shout out to your boy Clayco and the whole Clayco movement.
He's an in-house, like pretty much he does a lot of stuff with the different Opium artists.
But yeah, I was gonna say
he was big in that early Destroy Lonely.
Opium Baby. You were talking about stuff on the album that pushes forward. I guess that sounds like something he hasn't done before. I would say Opium Baby and I See You Baby Boy. I guess the Baby songs are the ones that really push things forward. I would say, and two other producers who don't have credits: DJ Moon and Lucian on I See You Baby Boy.
They should though, because they're like all over.
DJ Moon is,
and DJ Moon and I don't know.
He's been on. He did Future songs. Like he's done.
Yeah, they're
been on like much bigger.
The whole
songs.
Credits list is fucked up on there, but
you're saying that RYM is more concerned about like putting in like ridiculous subgenres on a record than putting in like accurate.
Listen, they're called scenes, all right. They're called scenes and movements. Show some respect.
Yeah, but like specifically Opium Baby, the production style. I mean, that's very similar to what Ken Carson's More Chaos album kind of. It sounds like the same. That was the first thing that came to mind, was that like Me and My Cup style.
I thought about like like some of the OK beats from like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I thought Opium Baby to me feels like, and this is a neutral statement, this is not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, but it feels like one of the only songs on the album that is in conversation with the underground.
I would say 100%. That's like, I mean, and then you add like all the gunshots and Swamp Izzo all over it, and it's extremely necessary to have all of that in there. The whole cacophony of sounds is just, it's what we needed off of this album, I think, especially when you got like We Need All the Vibes coming in before that. You need some like insane out of tune 808s, those fire alarm synths going off. That I think it's got to be.
This is an amazing
production credit without links as Olympian DJ Moon on that as well, and Cliff Shane and Nick Spiders.
Those 3 should have been on the album a lot more. The Draco FM guys too. All of those people should have been a lot more prevalent, in my opinion, of producers all over.
I'm sure they made like 20 more songs, and it just didn't make it. But no, I mean, I think, look, the especially if we're getting into that section, like, I mean, Opium Baby is just an awesome song, and one that really, you wouldn't think, like, once you start walking around and making like the freaking like you start doing the elongated like moans at the end of the song, like that's
Yep. That's it.
Yeah, no, we got to clip that one. That's gotta.
That's the intro, actually. There you go. There's the intro. It's just gonna be that on like a loop.
That's amazing.
That's something that should not sound that good, but it just works so well.
It's the way the song comes on with the it's like, is this like a soul sample? Like, what is he gonna do? And then it goes into just the most like distorted, possible version, and the gunshots and the things that overstimulate you, all this assault on the senses, and then the contrast of after that lovely rendition you just did, it goes into the outro, and the outro is like this cool down period again. It's like that's the song structure on that, like that definitely feels like one that was gestating for a while. He probably did changes to it and fine tune that one, because what a song. And again, something that I find very interesting is it feels in total conversation with like some of the artists that have been influenced by him. It feels like, he's like, okay, I've listened to you, Osama-san. I've listened to the artists on my label, the Kens and of the world.
I would hope he's listened to the artists on his label. That would.
Well, you don't
sometimes
know.
We don't know. It feels like
it.
I mean, it doesn't happen sometimes.
They don't really do songs together, so you don't really know. But yeah, I think he was like, okay, I'm talking back. I've heard you guys the last few years, and now I'm talking back. It shows obviously he still has his ear to the ground and that sort of stuff. But I mean, I See You Baby Boy, Pat, you brought it up. To me, this is the Control of the album.
Yeah, I can see that.
It just from
you got that EDM inspired sort of. Yeah,
and just like the voice, the hook, the way Control sounded very earnest, very open-hearted in a way, very raw. And this one sounds like the same thing. Like, instead of talking about like, oh, I love you, I'm losing control, it's like, oh, instead you want to be the one to lie to me, or something like that, or even though that you lied to me, I can see your face finally. Like,
would you make gun sounds for me?
Right. Would you do this? Right. Would you do this? Would you do this? Would you skip town? Like, would you do this? Like, this song is one of the more like, this is from a pop songwriting structure, I think. It isn't it's not the Weeknd song where it sounds like something you could hear on a radio. It's not like that, but it instantly gave me the Control vibe of like, oh, this is like a ballad almost. So
I like the ballad comparison, even though it's tonally very different than how a ballad should sound. It's like these kind of songs do feel like the ballads of the album.
It's an awesome song. I love that song.
And I don't know if you guys ever like heard any of the like stuff that was supposed to be like the leaks or all of the unreleased live stuff that was
very curious about that.
I didn't hear. I heard nothing before the album dropped, so I know this was like I think it went by like Young Vamp Love before, but I didn't know any of the songs.
I heard. I mean, I have a couple of friends who are very plugged in with this stuff. One in particular, so I heard a couple of stuff, but not like full length songs. More of okay, this snippet and this one. I would get the the link sent to me or whatever. But so I didn't really have a strong background for what I was going to hear on the album, other than I was just crossing my fingers and hoping that he would put the YouTube songs, as I referred to them, on the album, which he
kind of did,
and then he eventually did. But that was kind of my hope, was like, okay, I hope that stuff isn't just more Carti music that's out there in the ether and it's not officially on an actual project, because we've gone through that with so many great songs. I can't do it again. So I'm glad that ultimately that stuff.
Well, speaking of just that and like your hope for the album and the title of the album, I was thinking about this and his persona, and I think some of the lyrics on the album, like how much do we read into I am the music, and some of the stuff he says is like, is there more to that? Like, is he playing with his image? It's like, does this make sense what I'm saying? Like, I feel like there's something to like him saying, like there's him putting out the music is it just his music? Like,
well, I think it's interesting because like he had the claim "I am the music" before any of the music even dropped.
right?
And so people were
like
talking about him so much, and
like,
he didn't even do anything. He just posted like fit pics.
Like I feel like it's a bigger thesis than the album, and then like he didn't do anything with that. But then,
well, I think one of his claims that he made where he was like
there's some. I feel like there really is something more to it overall, where it's like he has the line about I don't know.
No, I actually think you're really onto something because, and maybe part of why
that's also why he dumped all the music out too. Eventually, I think there's more to it than just being a content dump.
Yeah,
where it's just like there is music and
well, shout out to, I mean, shout out to Fish drinking a beer in the in the Discord because he mentioned something about like I forget his exact point, to be fair, but he said something about like, oh man, this really takes you, it essentially like runs the gamut of different emotions, and there's so many different styles and whatnot, and I might be misinterpreting this point because I'm doing this off paraphrasing, but it shows sort of like the versatility of Carti on the album in the sense that there's so much. And we've talked about the all-encompassing nature of it already, and he just putting it all out, and it's years of music, and it's just out in one go, and maybe there's not as much of a regard for sequencing and whatnot, but all of these different areas of Carti as an artist, as a vocalist, as a sound, as an idea almost, and what he can be, is you hear like maybe what people said Carti should be and should do with his notoriety on some of like the poppier songs. You hear what maybe the older fans will want. People who loved Whole Lotta Red or Die Lit. You hear the Olympians, the I See You Baby Boys. Then you get the underground shit. Oh, he's not innovating anymore. Well, here's Opium Baby. Here's like Wheezy. Then it's like, what about the people? Oh, you never drop any of your, all your unreleased shit or all your leak stuff. Well, Hood by Air's on there. All of the songs that came out of YouTube, that he dropped leading up to this are on there. Oh, they wanted more aggressive stuff. What about the stuff that was like the rock concerts on the tours? Oh, Pop Out and Evil Jordan. There's all of this jam-packed into one project. So yeah, it is a little unwieldy, but I like to think, and maybe it is bullshit. Maybe we're all just talking, but I like to think that I Am Music, I Am the Music is not just a clear Wayne homage and a nod. It's like a, what is my mindset now type of thing. What has my mindset been the last few years? When you're like that and you've already done so many different styles and accomplished a lot in various different styles, how else can you iterate? How else can you change and go in different directions on that? So it makes sense to me in a way after listening to this album for like a month that he's gone in so many different directions, and you just get all of it here. So I guess it might be up to you to make sense of that, or maybe it's not supposed to make sense. But that's, I guess,
I like the way you put about how can you iterate, because it's like he's always the iteration, and I sort of like always go back to where he's going off and where Swamp is like he's coming, where he's just like going off and rapping, and that goes back to the Wayne mindset to me, where he's just like in the zone. And I think that's where he's just the most Wayne, is where he's just into a beat and just in the pocket. And that's the I Am Music aspect of it, is wherever he's at in the moment is he is the music.
Right.
Like that's it. And then wherever you are as the listener that is music, which sounds like fucking nonsense, but like honestly, that's it. It's it's the conversation between him making it and you absorbing it, and that's it. That's all that matters. I am music.
Right. And that's like the Ben, I totally
No, you're good. You're good.
Like, but that's why I think like in looking at evaluating it on a basis of like, oh, I'm gonna rate this song like 3 stars or whatever. Like that doesn't, you kind of lose it in our initial like 1 or 2 listens and make a snap decision on a record culture, which applies to obviously a lot more than Carti.
You lose the visceral quality of it.
Well said.
Yeah.
Don't need me to ramble on that aspect anymore. But that's how you get, a song like Overly that has like a terrible track rating. And you're like, what are we doing? Like, what?
We've talked over Ben for 10 minutes. Let's let Ben.
I just wanted to say, when you talk about like the I am music aspect of it, one thing that always stuck out to me was his quote, which I think he said during Rolling Loud at one point. He was talking about I think he was talking about Carnival, and he was saying like, this is my song, and every song that I featured on is like, I make it my song. And it's kind of been true over the past, 2 years when he hasn't even dropped any like music under his own name. All the features that he's done, he's kind of like been the star despite not being the main name. I mean, you got Carnival, Fiend, you got what else? Field Trip, even going back even further, like Earthquake and Pain 1993. He was the big talking point of those songs. And so I think it's interesting when he talks about like, I am the music. He's almost saying like, no matter what I do, I'm creating I'm like the best version of how this song could sound. I'm giving my all, and this is what everybody's talking about. Everybody's talking about my verse. And he's sort of saying right now, currently in 2025, I am music, the thing that people are talking about in music today. So that quote just always like resonated with me when he was talking about the title of the album. Just seemed like something maybe to bring up, because he's talking about like truly saying even all of his like friends on all of the songs that he's featured on, he's basically almost undercutting them and saying, I make the song. I'm the reason the song is getting popular right now.
No, I mean that's and I think when you're someone of that stature, maybe you kind of have to think like that. There's a certain amount of confidence and belief and arrogance, I guess you could say, in yourself. But I think it's deserved. And look, man, I feel like we haven't even talked about so many of the songs on here, but I was thinking about when we did the Whole Lot of Red podcast, I talked about how when artists get on songs with him and they're the feature, they kind of do impressions of him. And I think this is an album where, interestingly, not a lot of them do, whether it's, in the sense of like an Uzi where they're just kindred spirits, so they don't need to do impressions of each other. They kind of just fit, naturally, kind of like almost like a handshake emoji on the track. But so on the Uzi songs, and especially Twin Trim, which I just think of as like an interlude. I think it's a great
that's a really cool thing that they do. I do feel like artists do impressions of other artists with him though, but not necessarily of him. Like I feel like Travis is doing like Cudi impressions, but not necessarily like Carti impressions.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, I think Future.
That's why you have Charge Them Hoes a Fee is like a 3/6 thing. But yeah, I feel like the Uzi tracks are like that's something different. Like that's a cool like fan service thing almost to have them doing like the Predator handshake on there. Like,
and it's been so long since they've been on a song together that was released in any official capacity. So that is.
Well, it almost feels like unfortunate that those are the songs that we get because they're so short. I almost feel like it sort of, it doesn't feel like that was the real 1629 Uzi Carti collab we wanted. Jumpin' is
definitely a song that should have been on, that was going to be on Narcissist, because Uzi has the line about how he's becoming a narcissist or what it was.
He's also like chanting like Pink Tape like 20 times, so it could have been on that as well.
That's not really
that Uzi verse is so goofy, but I mean, it sounds like he's having a good time.
But so I do really like. I like how he switches it up toward like before the narcissist line toward the end. He does like the pew, 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 like he does that. I like,
which is maybe going back to like the "Baby, can you make gunshots for me" line. I always thought that was funny. Maybe he's talking about Uzi there.
He can. I like that he does that little like switch up there, but it is more of Uzi has plenty of those where you're getting by on charisma and quotability, which happens with a lot of his little like features and stuff. But I think the difference between maybe this album and A Whole Lot of Red from a feature component is, one, there's just more of them on here, obviously. But two, is, yeah, you have Kendrick kind of doing a I'm on a Carti song sort of thing, but the other Kendrick features, like on Good Credit, he just kind of like does a goofy, silly, fun Kendrick verse, which I think is very well served for that song. And like the Future song, Teen X, I always thought Future was like almost doing an impression of him on that, or getting on the wavelength. He had that like super high voice. Well, you know, when he said like I'm on the X, I'm on codeine. He did that. This one, Trim, feels like a Future song to me. It always has, and it feels like Carti is throughout the album. Carti, some of the vocal inflections he does have been the most Future influence I think he's ever sounded.
Absolutely, because there's a lot of Future influence on here.
100%. And Trim being,
I don't mind, by the way, which I feel like certain people on the album, on the server, have been a little mad about Carti's Future influence, whereas I feel like maybe at least one person on the server might just be mad about the Kendrick verse. One line on it, I guess, about somebody carrying weight, I think might have been the problem.
Yeah.
I mean, I somewhat get it, because like you want to hear Carti do his Carti voice on these songs. Like you can hear Future do Future voices on his own song. So I get it, but I think he does a good job. I mean, it's tracks like, what is it? Walk. I feel like he's doing Future. Just definitely Trim. And that Future verse too. I can't lie. He really did his. He really
one
did his
of
thing.
the. I mean, it feels like they might have done that in the. They might have done. I wonder if that was like how closely recorded to type shit that was, like in the sessions, because I can kind of see the overlap of that. Feels like a song from around that time, because their collabs the last couple of times. I mean, Future's been so focused. So I mean, he was really crushed that verse. Definitely one of my favorite features on the album for sure. Just it really takes you. It really makes you like think again. Like, damn, like Future, man. I mean, the long-awaited pod it'll happen eventually. I've been promising it for so many years at this point, but I'm gonna have way too much to say. Everyone's gonna get annoyed, so we keep not doing that pod. But what a verse!
That little B one have been like long gestated.
That's true.
Yeah,
those two are. I mean, they might take years. But yeah, what that's a great verse, and I like we talked about funny stuff that Kendrick said. Just revisiting Good Credit for a second. One, the little skit in the beginning, very easy to get in your head. You walk around like Good Credit. You know that skit's about like scamming people, or scamming.
Where's it from? Do you know where it's from?
It was some.
I have no idea.
It was some TikTok that was from a guy who I think is now in jail, but it was.
Oh, nice.
It was from a TikTok. The guy is telling you when he's saying Good Credit and like now I have Home Depot credit or now I have 30. He's telling you to like set up. It's like setting up a like account on with a credit limit via Home Depot, and you can like buy appliances for free essentially and then sell them and then just make a new
sample
account.
Lore. Wow.
Yeah. They give you like a credit limit. I found the little like video. So yeah. Interesting.
Just that deep stuff that we dive into.
This is the sampled portion of the podcast.
Yeah. Kendrick must have liked that one because there's no way Carti was putting that in. But I love when Kendrick does the like, Carti my evil twin. Like I love the.
What is he talking about with that though? Like I can't. It seems like it's such like a simple line, but I cannot for the life of me understand what he actually means by that.
Well, I think it was isn't there a Carti Evil Twin song? Like, doesn't he have a song called Evil Twin?
I've never heard of it before.
I don't know if I've heard it, but but Kendrick, hold on, but Kendrick has been doing alter egos for
yeah, but really, like, why is Carti his alter ego now? I don't understand.
Well, no, I don't necessarily know if I think. Okay, we're going to get into the discussion. Okay, this is actually a great jumping off point. I have personally, I don't know if you guys have seen, I've seen a lot of like, when Kendrick collabs with an artist that is not you wouldn't necessarily think. And by you, I kind of mean like his general fan base.
Mm-hmm.
So, we saw with Kodak a couple years ago on Morale. Why is he collabing with Kodak Black? And as if Kendrick isn't allowed to listen to rap music and make his own decision.
That had a thematic purpose in the album. We go listen to the Morale episode.
Right. No, 100%. But I'm just saying.
I did some gymnastics in that episode. I bent my ankle on the fucking moral trampoline on that one. But go watch that.
No, but I do think that our discussion, because I actually re-listened to some of that podcast somewhat recently to hear what my own thoughts were years ago, just so I didn't sound like a not to do with Kendrick. Well, no, Kendrick himself said he's a contradiction. He said that before, but he has always been. I think one thing we all talked about on Morale, and good thing you brought that up, is we talked about how Kendrick is he's a big believer in redemption, and he's that's like his religious background, right? So I think on this it's like Kendrick also, and a certain other older rapper who has had quite a fall from grace also, I think thinks like this, is
allegedly
yeah, thinks like this, where it's like Kendrick I think collaborates with people that he sees either himself in, maybe a younger version, or he sees like an artistic spark or something that drives him personally, artistically, like he takes inspiration from. I think he definitely took inspiration from Kodak and had probably listened to his music, or even just Kodak's personal situation and his redemptive arc. And Kendrick obviously feels himself being pushed creatively by Carti. I think that is pretty.
I feel like you see a difference between Kendrick in this situation and the Kodak thing versus that person and them working with Triple Extentation and Tekashi 69 in a different circumstance.
Right. But Kendrick's tweet many years ago about the X album when it came out, listen to this if
Raw
you want.
thoughts.
Yeah, raw thoughts, which, coined a whole phrase. Listen to this album if you want to feel something, is what he said. So Kendrick he feels like he's very obviously very emotional and can get strong connection to music that makes his mind work. We don't know all of what that is. It could be West Coast music, MC8 from 30 years ago, or it could be Playboi Carti. Like, it's probably both of those things. So I think him being on all over this album, multiple different songs, I was a little surprised, but then once I kind of heard, it didn't really shock me too much, because I think that there are certain, Carti there's a reason why a lot of people in interviews over the years within the industry, even if like Frank Ocean has said, I think even Frank, like, people have lauded Carti, like he inspires something within them creatively, even if they're nowhere near like his quote unquote like lane of hip hop, or even within the genre. So I think Kendrick is just one of those other artists.
If you want to see a second episode of this podcast this year, Frank Ocean drop an album.
Yes, yeah. we only come back from the grave when it comes to these. Although, did you hear the snippet, Patrick?
I didn't, because I can only torture myself so much, but I didn't.
Yeah, I abstained myself from this.
Is he doing any woodworking though? I only
no woodworking. I think there was like a minute snippet, but there was a video associated with it. I believe, someone correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, I believe that it's a video of a UFC fighter. I think it's someone that Frank dated. I think they were dating. I don't know, totally unsubstantiated. I was just internet rumors. So someone correct me if I'm wrong, but the video that accompanied the snippet, which, if I have to be honest, was a beautiful snippet, was of a UFC fighter, or a lot of it was of a UFC fighter. So anyway, totally going off what the internet said. Surely they're not wrong. But yeah, anyway, Pat's right. Episode number 2.
This all seems above board incredible. Like, it's.
Yeah. So. Oh, totally. I mean, but like Wheezy has to be a hit, right? I mean,
I think it's his catchiest song off the album for sure. It's the most it's the most replayable for me. I mean, I just want to replay the song over and over again. It's so short, and I keep pressing replay every time. That Rich Kid sample is a work of genius. I think the mixing of the sample when it like cuts to be a little bit louder in the chorus is it elevates to another level. Just a genius.
I have to, shameful admission, my most replayable moment, and this is going to be a callback for long-time listeners, is the last time we talked about a Playboi Carti song that I kept repeating to myself and alarm somebody at work was when I was talking to myself saying, when I go to sleep, I dream about murder. And askew. And this is recently I was at work and I kept saying to myself, Shorty going crush. Shorty going crush.
There's so many little lines that I just keep repeating throughout this entire. Each song has got its own one part to it.
Song that Travis Scott has no actual feature credit on is the one that I would say is the catchiest song on the album, and I'd say that's the actual hit. But I would say
it's interesting though because it's so short.
I would say they're both hits, but
yeah, yeah. Like Wheezy, I'll be very interested because right now it looks like Fine Shit and Evil Jordan are going to be like the bigger songs, but I'll be very interested once the summer comes around to see if like Wheezy gets some kind of bump because it has a very like effervescent kind of exultant feel. Ben, you talked about that with the Rich Kids sample. I mean, you talk about
we need a futuristic swag throwback. Like we need to come back this
like 2013,
2009, 2010. Yeah.
I mean, even you look like. You talk about repeatable lines. I mean, how many times have you walked around and be like, I told her I'm big like B, but she ain't believe me.
All the damn time. All the damn time.
I also feel the same way about Overly. I know I said it earlier. One great Molly Raw melody feels like something that could have been on the Whole Lotta Red, version 1, 2, 3 type era. But I love the like SRT, you can hear the big comment, and he does the like grrr, he does the car sound effect. There's so many. You could.
Yeah, there's so many just little funny moments on the album. He's just so fucking clever on the album, I would say.
I think some of the catchiest parts are when Swamp Izzo and Carti kind of go back and forth, like on Munyon when he's doing like came a long way, still can't believe it made Forbes, and it's like Swamp Izzo, and it's just back and forth. Or what's the other one he's doing? On Crank, free throw song.
Like also I like the Swamp outro on Walk when he's like this gonna feel like the end of the world for a lot of you. To my day ones. Those are all good. Also, I like
app where it's just like a random button for just like a Swamp Izzo ad lib for just moments in your life.
Someone's gonna make that like a soundboard app with just Swamp Izzo. Someone should get on that. We need a developer to get on that. I was gonna say on South Atlanta Baby, which the closer on the regular version. I always love when artists do the like I made a new genre or new wave thing. It's always so fun. It's so infrequently happens, but when Swamp is like, this puts you in a whole nother category. We created our own genre. From now on, don't box us in any category.
And you like compare it with like the sparkly and like triumphant beat that's going on with all the gunshots. And
right. It has like the choir type, like gospel sort of sound in a way. And by the way, for the record, speaking of like technical rapping, and I guess my last point on that regard, two things on that song, South Atlanta Baby, very well rapped song. Like the second verse, when he does like the line that starts with like all that rah rah, and then he just like the rest of the song is that very jagged flow. He's kind of like, I've said this before, but he's kind of like skipping around on the beat. I love that. I love that song, and I love the way it closes. Definitely a song that I was kind of like whelmed by on first listen, and has grown into now to the point where I'm like, damn, is this like one of his best closers? Like it really grew on me immensely. So I love that one. And then Hood by Air which we had came out before, but on I guess it's HBA. The second verse, when it starts with like when he's like tell the driver to pull over, from like that part to the end of the song is as good of like a technical like bars son like Carti as I think we've heard. Like he's very like in a pocket, and the propulsivity of the beat matched with like his his flow on that, like that is awesome stuff. And obviously like you got to get high like this, you got to get high like me. That's an awesome, like that's a great hook. So
I think his most creative flows are on Hood by Air, and I will say I only listen to the OG version. I do think that
like the snares.
I think I don't. Okay, I get the snares, and I actually really like them on a lot of the other stuff. I think that the snares coming in sort of ruins the emptiness of how menacing and to cut out the line. I get it was like sort of a diss to someone that he made up with prior to the album being released. Yeah. But I don't know, the gap in it sort of kills the flow for me. So I only will really listen to the OG version. But I mean, to me, this is a top 10 song of Carti because I think his flow is just unmatched on this one.
Yeah, he does like a different flow on each verse, which I think is, and I love the like, again, as I was saying, like, where he said like double L, we just getting ready for a crossover, and then tell the driver need to pull over, and then just from that to the end of and then he does all of my friends are dead flow, like he does just all of that verse.
Carves out of pocket. It's like he pretty much just like, it's nuance. It's a really naughty, nuanced flow that you don't normally get out of him.
No, and even the outro is the
outro just gives me chills, man. When he's like, "Now I can finally sleep," and then boom, just like encompassing him is so crazy.
One of the things I this album is that I feel like you get a real sense of his voice, like the actual sound of his voice on a lot of these songs. Just like how, like, I feel like a lot of people in the server said they don't like how phlegmy and raw he sounds. I love that.
I love that. One of my favorite things is actually in Pop Out, he's got that, like, he accents certain vowels, like P. He's always doing like the P type stuff. And that, it's so visceral and raw, and it fits the kind of sound that the beat's making. And you just wouldn't, I don't want to hear, smoothed out, auto-tune nicely vocals. Like, I want to hear those little spits.
And you
make it sound like he's really growling.
You kind of get that in pockets. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's not like it's just one thing. I mean, you get a song like Cocaine Nose where he's like, drugs, drugs, drugs. Like, the very guttural, like he's talking from the bottom of his throat almost at the end. But then Olympian, I mean, I could talk all day about Olympian.
Was Olympian like a song that was like around for a while before this, or?
I don't know. I don't think anyone actually knew about this one, but it kind of sounds like an older, like it doesn't sound, it gives off like a whole lot of red.
Videos before, like it was like a highlight video staple or something, right?
Oh well, that was a it's become that because since it came out. Yeah. I see a lot of like sports videos where.
Well, that's the most natural, like literally the most natural thing ever to put this in.
Yeah. In the literal sense, absolutely. And I love it sounds like, and this has been spoken about, I think a lot of people have said this that are big Carti fans, but it's the over of this album. It's the long time of the album. There's a clear lineage. You can hear it in the beat. I was so shocked that it wasn't like Art Dealer.
This seems like an Art Dealer one. I got like Sky, Over, those type of songs with this beat for sure.
100%. I couldn't believe it wasn't Art Dealer.
But then like Cliff Shane, DJ Moon, Nick Spiders, those are all guys who have been doing a lot of good stuff in the underground. And I was like, okay, this makes sense then, because to me this is the best song on the album, and it's my personal song of the year so far. I think this is
the
second verse.
We are so locked in because I feel the
second verse is peak everything. I mean, when he just does like I got 10 cars in traffic, I went ludicrous. I go ludicrous, man. That's my gem. That's my highlight of the album for sure.
It's a beautiful little. I like that he shouts out like where he grew up, toward the end. Yeah, I mean it's hard to even, if for some reason you're listening to this podcast and you haven't heard the song Olympian, go listen to it. Hopefully you'll love it. I mean, it's hard to even describe. It is a sense of it gives you the same feeling that, like you said, a long time or over Sky, where it is so many different emotions in one song. It can mean different things to you, I think, at different times. It's not necessarily as literal in the sense of long time, where, just to feel like this, it took a long time, or I didn't feel like this in a long time, could mean very different things depending on what stage you're at in life. This more has just the musicality, where there's a triumphant nature to it, but also there's like a little tiny undercurrent of like melancholy as well, which is hard to put your finger on unless you've like really heard it. So yeah, I mean, you said it perfectly. It's also my favorite song on the project, and that's saying a lot because, especially including the deluxe, there are some real Hall of Fame. There's some real Hall of Fame stuff here, and that one, just the first listen, I immediately sent it to friends who hadn't heard the album yet. I was like, okay, you might not like the album, you gotta like this one. It's like, this one really resonates deeply with me as someone who is so personally attached to the other songs that I've compared this to. So yeah, love.
And this one feels like it could have been a hit too. Like, it could have been like a viral song. I'm always surprised when I see like Evil Jordan or Fine Shit being the one. To me, this has got that Sky sort of vibe that everybody loved, and that everybody, even non-Carti fans, were.
It could have went right in front of like I Love You, I Hate You on A Lot of Red. Yeah. It could have slotted into that sequencing realm on that album. So I was. It's cool again, representing the different eras as it relates to the body of work as a whole. So I mean, I feel like we've been, we've covered so much ground. We've talked about so much, and yet it feels like there's still more to unpack. But maybe that's sort of been all of our relationship with the album. But I think I've said about all I can without sounding like a broken record. But I mean, either of you two have any sort of closing thoughts? I mean, Ben, forget the fact that you talked about putting it over Die Lit. Where do you think, like, long term, this will be seen in Carti's, kind of oeuvre? Because for me, this is like his. I'm at a certain loss with it because I think it's his weakest album. With that said, I also think it's a great album, and an album that is going to be in my top 5 of the year whenever the year ends. And I know that is probably very, very different from how people that we're friends with on in the server and just on the site in general, and just others out there in the world. Oh, it's too long. There's songs I would cut off. It's me. Part of why I like it so much is I've just embraced the imperfection of it. And there's I've seen a lot of comments about, there's so much filler, there's this, there's that. It's like, to me, it's not. I've talked about the couple of things I would change. I probably, if I had to, I'd probably remove 3 songs of 34. It's like, that's a pretty damn high batting average, and one that I don't think most artists can touch. So I mean, I think very highly of this record, while also acknowledging that it is more than any other Carti album by far, it is an imperfect object. I know that.
Yeah, I think it's flawed, but I think it's also interesting, like, to see all of, like, I'm looking at all my, like, top streams from this year and, like, my most played album. It's by far this, even with all the imperfections and flaws within it, I still think this is the album this year that I've had the most fun with, even if it's not necessarily the most boundary pushing, or it's, you know, trying to be some huge grand statement. It just is a fun listen. And I think that the sort of like mixtape vibe that he was going for pretty accurately describes the enjoyment that I get out of it. You got all these little things that, you know, wouldn't be on a mainstream big budget project that sort of just come together in a nice, you know, 34 track album. It's an hour and 16 minutes, which is long, but it's also not that long when you think of each song being, there's barely any songs over 3 minutes long. So you're almost rapid fire getting different styles and different flows and different voices and all these different producers with all these different beats, that it never really dies. It never really feels like you're slogging along to the album, you know, say for a couple of tracks here and there. It always picks back up after like one or two songs, even if you're not really vibing with it at the time. You know, this is just, it's a beast of an album in the same way that Whole Lotta Red is, where, you know, you probably aren't vibing with all 34 tracks. And I mean, a lot of Whole Lotta Red songs have grown on me since. I like them all now, but I can see this one where almost every song grows on me to the point where I find its placement in the album valid. I mean, there's a couple songs here that I would take out, but as I listen to the full thing more, I mean, like something like Trim was a song that I kind of threw out at first because it felt like it was a slow 3-minute Future song with a little Carti verse at the end. But now the beat and everything about it, it all fits very nicely in here. So in terms of like where it fits in terms of like the full discography, I think this one, I'd probably place it second over Dial-It and Self-Titled. Whole Lotta Red probably being my favorite.
Coming in hot.
Fuck, dude. What
I know. Okay, but listen, okay? Because there's so many different sounds and styles here that I can always find something that I'm just gonna like. Even if I'm like Dial-It and Self-Titled, they've got sort of a vibe and they fit it and they match it, and all the songs are one big piece almost. But this one, like, you can take just 10 songs and they're all going to sound completely different. And that's sort of an album that sticks with me more, is one where, you know, the styles are varied and you can really feel the creativity just bursting through, even if it, you know, doesn't really land all the time. The variety of producers around here, I think, and the flows, the different flows and voices that Carti uses is pretty different than what he's done in the past. And to me, that sound is the sound that I'm most drawn to as of today. Maybe not in 10 years, but as of today, a lot of the songs here are pretty much exactly what I want from him. So I'd probably put it second overall.
Pat, where is it? Are you aligned with me in the sense that like it's his weakest, but there's still so much to love with it?
Yeah. I mean, well, first of all, I guess, are we counting in abundance?
I don't count it personally because I think it's not truly something he put together. It's like 50 tracks of Lucy's.
Yeah,
so
I count it like spiritually, but not actually, not in terms of the. I think the Whole Lotta Red Leaks, bootleg package is more official than
this
that.
Is definitely not as good as Whole Lotta Red Leaks.
No. But what I'm saying is, in terms of like quote unquote unofficial material, I think that is more of like a complete sequence package than in abundance, which is just but
it's also
we're counting this in terms of like what, so it's just self-titled, Whole Lotta Red in this
and Dial-It.
Okay.
I think those are the four. I mean, the Whole Lotta Red Leaks, you could say that it's a more cohesive piece, but they're leaks instead of like true. It's true full songs. Like in Abundance are like real songs that were like posted on SoundCloud rather than stuff that Carti didn't intend to actually get out.
That's true. Semantics for sure. I definitely. I guess I've always seen it as Whole Lotta Red. The first couple versions of it was legitimately supposed to be an album, and the sound is fairly cohesive. But way different. We're getting into the minutia with that. So I guess as it just relates to his official stuff, Pat.
Okay, I don't. As of right now, I think I would probably put this. It's weird to say because if you look at my initial review of Self-Titled, I was cool on it. And at this point, I would say that I would probably put Self-Titled over this because I've lived with Self-Titled longer. But I think I know that if I live with this longer, I'll probably put this over Self-Titled because these are better songs because he's had more time to. He's a better songwriter now.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. But Self-Titled, I think there's more timeless stuff on Self-Titled than on here, if that makes sense. Like the best stuff on Self-Titled here is probably better than the best stuff on Self-Titled is probably better than the best stuff on here. But I think this is a better album than Self-Titled. I also don't think that either of those are even in the same category as Die-Lit or Whole Lotta Red. I think those two are probably a higher tier than these. I think Music and Self-Titled are lower tier than Die-Lit and Whole Lotta Red.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I mean, I have so many memories and personal connections to all 4 albums now at this point, but I do think that I would put this one and the Self-Titled in a similar bucket compared to the Whole Lot of Reds and Die-Lits of.
I was just listening to Magnolia and Location again today, and I think those 2 songs are just very, very hard to compete. There's nothing on here I would put against.
There's nothing that there's nothing that really even sounds like those songs to this day.
Often, and that's just not fair to put against most songs, honestly. And I don't think I was prepared for those songs when they dropped. And I'm like, those comment boxes are very funny to read. I will say. It's very funny to read angry boomers in 2016 trying to reconcile with those songs, or 2017.
Look, man, I mean, I think the biggest thing one thing we can all agree on, and even if you're not a big fan of this album, or, and we have some people that we all associate with that, are kind of, maybe they're kind of over Carti as a cultural touchstone. I've seen that out there. Regardless of what you think about I Am Music or where Carti is in his career directionally compared to 10 years ago when he was wearing, CDG Converses and dropping, different little singles with Ethereal and whatnot. At this point, his sound throughout the years is often imitated, never duplicated. And I just read a piece the other day about one of the greatest albums ever made, the greatest collection of rap music ever, which is 3 6 Mafia Under.
God, I knew you were going to say that. Thank God you said that one.
But yes, Underground Volume 1 was a piece I read the other day, and I read, and it was about how the sound endured, and things we all know about that, and how it's been often imitated, never duplicated. And I feel the exact same way about a lot of Carti's music, and I think, I kind of think he feels that way too, and I think he's earned the right to feel that way. Ben, I want to thank you for coming on the podcast again. I want to thank.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
I want to thank Patrick as always, and I want to thank all of our listeners for bearing with us through what has been 10 months at this point of not having the pod. We're back. We'll see about releases coming forward. I'll do my best to keep you guys posted, but we love doing the pod, and hopefully we get more albums that inspire this much of a spirited discussion again. I'm sure there are going to be more that are on the way before the year is up. 2025, the less said about this year, the better, but we do have a Playboi Carti album, and it's pretty damn great. So for Pat and Ben, I'm Caleb. Our outro music, as always, is Stagnated Pace by Cankick, and our intro music is the Borrowed Time Instrumental by You and Classic. We will see you when we see you. Peace.
It ain't gonna never stop. 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 It ain't gonna never stop.
But when the time is right, perhaps the greatest revelation of all time will dawn upon us.